In the last episode, we did a lot of work on the finish on this neck, and we're kind of at a point where it's just curing now, waiting for the lacquer to be ready to rub down. So in this episode, I want to concentrate on getting these electrics sorted out into a little bit of a wiring loom so that when the time is right, we've got them prepared to go straight into the body. It's not as straightforward as you might think on this one, because obviously we've got to fish these into the body, either through the F-hole or potentially through the hole for the output jack if it's big enough. But either way, we need to think about how we're going to do this, because there are complications that come with an F-hole body that hasn't got an access panel for the controls. However, before I do that, I actually just want to get the body back on the bench, but something to protect the finish. And God, doesn't that look absolutely stunning? I'm so pleased with the way that this has come out. But what I want to do is actually make a little bit of a start on the polishing process on this, but it is still a little bit soft, so we can't go for the full polish just yet. But what I want to do is just take some kind of fairly fine paper, and I'm just going to rub this down all over. And what that will do is it will break the surface film that's formed on top of the finish, and it will help any solvents that might be trapped in there to just escape a little bit, and that will help it to harden up to the point where we can actually put a decent polish onto it. It has warmed up here in the last couple of days significantly. It is a lot warmer than it was, and I'm hoping that that will help this cure to the point where we can get it polished in the next week or so. And I'm going to do this with some 600 paper, so it's not particularly rough, but it's not that fine either. And I'm just going to ruin whatever shiny finish there was by flattening it all off. You can see it's soft because it's kind of clogging that paper up straight away. But hopefully this will get me to the point where I can polish it properly a lot quicker. Very quickly do the back and the edges too. And with that done, I can get it out of the way, but I'm not going to move it too far because I'm actually going to be attempting to trial fit these electronics once I've actually got them wired together. And for those of you that aren't familiar, it's a very straightforward concept for the electronics on here. We've got two small mini pots for the volume and tone. They are both 250Ks and they are manufactured by CTS. So they're very good quality pots. They're just a little bit smaller than we normally use. And we've also got a Switchcraft output jack. I'll put that on there so I don't lose it, even though I don't really need it. And these will be wired together into a little bit of a loom that we can get into the guitar. But also I need to make sure that I've left some tails on here that will attach to the ground from the bridge and the pickup, so that I can fit these all in position and then just connect all the wires up and poke them back into the body of the guitar out of the way. And as is normal for me, I'm going to just use some of this pushback cloth covered wire to wire it all up, which is relatively straightforward and always leaves a nice job. What I'm not going to do though is use this bus wire, which I quite often use to kind of join things together, because this is a little bit too rigid, and trying to get this into the guitar body when it's all wired together would just make things really problematic. So I'm not going to go with that. Okay, so enough blathering. We'll get the soldering iron on the go and I'll break out the circuit diagram and we can get this all wired up. And while that's warming up, I just want to make a little template to make sure that I'm going to get all of the lengths for all of the wires that I'm going to join these all together with absolutely right. And it's a fairly straightforward job. All I'm going to do is I've got a somewhat dirty finger, which will help me mark where my holes are, and then also where the edge of the guitar is. You might not be able to see that, but I can. So what I'll do is I'll transfer all of that onto a piece of board and we can just drill the holes in necessary to make it what we need it. And it doesn't have to be anything fancy. All I'm going to do is that way I'll position where I mark the edge against the edge of the board. And I'll put an all mark in. I don't need my holes. And then just very quickly wang a couple of 10mm holes through there. Which we can then use to temporarily mount our pots to. And I know now that if I just leave a little bit of excess wire when I'm wiring this together, I'll have plenty of scope for getting it all fastened in properly. So as we've got it set up here, this will be the volume pot, this will be the tone pot, and then the wires will come out past here to the output jack, which will be kind of somewhere in this region here once we get to it. Now the first thing I need to do is this lug 3 on the volume pot is actually pulled to ground, so we'll get that over there. Now I'm a little bit wary that these pots are smaller than the normal size ones that I use, so I'm trying to limit the heat that I put into them, because obviously less material in the pot body means it's going to get hotter quicker and I don't want to kind of burn them out. So I'm just dropping my temperature down a little bit on the soldering iron. Now that ground connection will be used for multiple kind of wires coming in, but for the time being I'm just going to solder on this little bit of wire that's going to go out to the output jack. And then from there I'm going to connect up these two lugs between the volume and the tone. And I am going to be quite generous with the amount of material that is between these pots. It will never be an issue once it's in there, as long as it's not kind of all poking out through the F-hole. But the way I've got these positioned is most of them will be well away from that area, so can't really see it being a problem. And then from there, the next thing to do is to put the capacitor onto the tone pot. And these are generally shown to be kind of sat on top of the tone pot, but I don't want to do that in this configuration because I think it'll just be a bit of a risk in terms of fouling something else inside of the body. So I'm going to put it around about there, solder into that. And I'm going to do it in such a way that it's sat up and it's away from the pot body. We can just snip them legs off. And actually what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to use this one to ground both pots together, and then we'll do a separate one going out to the output jack. So I'm going to leave, again, plenty of material. Cut that there. And then all we need is a wire going from the middle lug of the volume pot out to the output jack. And for the time being, just another ground from the tone pot. And then it's just a case of attaching everything onto the output socket. So we'll just tin them up first. And then, as I mentioned earlier, I'm just going to add on some kind of really long lengths of wire. One as a ground that can go to the bridge and the pickup ground, which we'll just put onto this pot. Like that. And then the other one we'll just add to this number one lug on the volume pot. So that realistically is all we need to do at this point. And like I say, when the time comes to assemble this properly, we'll attach the 2 pickup wires to each of these and the bridge ground to the black one, and we're all good to go. So with that all established now, I'm going to leave this to cool off for a little while, and then we'll give it a shot at getting it into the guitar. And to get these in, I'm going to use a combination of little tricks and methods. First off, I'm going to insert this piece of string through the output. Just grab that with my forceps. Put a bit of foam on there just to keep everything nice and secure. And I'm going to tie that right the way through the output. Like that. Then I'm going to take one end of my little piece of rubber tubing, stick it through the volume, and just stick that over the top of the volume pot. At the other end, grab that, stick it over the tone pot. Now the trick here is not to get stuff tangled up, so you need to keep everything kind of out of the way of each other, and then I can just start feeding things through. Now what I didn't do, it's a bit of a schoolboy error, was I didn't ream out these holes. So they're a bit tighter than they need to be. So I'm not going to force that through, but as you just saw there, that is everything pulled into position. I did that in real time and it didn't take that long at all. When it comes time to fit the pickup and everything else, we'll put the bridge ground through and we'll put the wire for the pickup in. We'll connect them all together onto these, and then all of that can be pulled back into the guitar so it's not visible. And one way we can do that is to actually, again, put a string up through the output jack, attach it to these wires, and then when they're soldered, you just pull that tight and it pulls everything out of the way. So far, so good with that. I'm going to take it all out again because we don't need it in there for the time being, and I'm going to ream these holes out, so hopefully it'll all fit a little bit better. Now these are a very handy little tool to have for reaming out holes, but in this situation it's utterly useless because the back of the guitar is in the way. So what I'll probably do is just very carefully run a drill through there just to clean them up. So this is a 9.5mm drill bit, and I'm actually going to run this in reverse. And very gently remove that material, and actually we need to go up another 0.5mm. And I haven't taken any wood at all out of that. It's simply just removing the excess lacquer that's built up over the multiple coats that I put on this. And again, it's a perfect fit now, so that's all good. So that's our little wiring loom created. I think the star of the show for this one for me was this little pair of surgical forceps. I've got multiple pairs of these. They're very, very cheap. You can get them off Amazon, but they are so useful. These have got me out of a sticky situation on many occasions, so they are definitely worth the investment. I'm going to put our little wiring loom to one side, keep it nice and safe, ready for when we finally install it. But of course we can't do that until we've properly polished up this body, and we're getting close, but I think a few more days just for this to fully harden up a little bit more will yield us much better results. So I'm going to leave this one here. I'll be back in a few days time when we can start to get a gloss onto this. Until then, don't forget to hit the like button if you've enjoyed this, subscribe if you haven't already done so, and I'll look forward to seeing you then. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye bye.